even its viewers. The information contained in this program is not to be confused with medical or legal advice. An appearance on this platform is not necessarily an endorsement, but as always, we encourage you to do your own research. Enjoy the show. Good evening, everyone. And of course, welcome back to another very exciting episode of Red Pill News Live. This is the first edition of Red Pill News for 2026. Now, ever since I was a little boy in Mogadishu, my father used to tell me, son, you want to go to America. You want to become naturalized. Then you want to get on welfare. Then you want to come back to Mogadishu and join the government. And then once you join the government, you keep getting your welfare benefits from the United States of America. You even start a business. You can start many businesses, all on the same address, and none of them have to do anything. It's just a way for you to get money from the government. And then, of course, you steal money from the Somali people, too. Anyways, that's how I imagine the conversation went. So, as you can probably tell, we are still talking about Somali fraud because it just seems to get bigger and better every single day. What I need from you is to hit that like button, help us out by sharing the show, and of course, you can sit back, relax, and grab your popcorn, because we're going to get into it right about now. All right, good afternoon, my friends. I hope you guys have a lovely day. B. Arthur says, Zach, what's the over-under on the number of months before Tim Walz resigns or is indicted? Personally, I think that it's going to be an indictment. I do not believe Tim Walz is going to resign, because if he resigns, that is an admission of guilt in one form or another. Much like Volodymyr Zelensky, Tim Walz is only as relevant as his current position. He may be impeached and kicked out by his own state legislature. I don't know exactly what the process is for the impeachment of a governor of any state. I would imagine they probably all got their own processes. But we are actually, funnily enough, going to talk about Tim Walz being indicted today, because there is an actual possibility that could happen. Thank you very much. I see people over there on YouTube. Hello from Vegas. Hello from Boston. Hello from Puerto Rico. Hello from Santa Barbara, California. We have a real international audience over there. And of course, all of my friends over here on Rumble and Pilled. I know you guys are all over the country as well. New Case says, Zach, tell us to get popcorn so much. I really think he needs a popcorn sponsor. The MAGA movement. That would be so amazing. Yes, if you guys know of a popcorn sponsor that would love to sponsor this program and have me talk about them all the time, I will definitely do that. But I truly do believe that the popcorn is definitely on the menu. We have so many things to talk about. You guys, first of all, I have a couple of New Year's sort of housekeeping issues I'd like to get out of the way, but I do need to say thank you so much to Trump1, who says, afternoon, Zach. Thank you to Boys Blanc, who dropped a cookie. And I hope you guys had a great New Year's Eve and a great New Year's Day. Yesterday, took the day off, went out to dinner with the family, and just basically enjoyed ourselves. It was kind of a slow news day. I don't know that I would have been able to deliver the type of show that I normally like to deliver, but oh my gosh, we have some New Zealand, Texas, Ohio, Chicagoland, Washington. I did actually get, speaking of Chicagoland, I don't know if you guys saw the show that I did over on Badlands where I was talking about all of the scammer baiting that I used to do back in the day. But every now and then I get texts from scammers and I will reply to them with something that is totally ridiculous. Like as an example. So somebody texted me yesterday. It was interesting because they texted me from an Illinois number, but it was a Yes, it was an iMessage, which means that they're like texting me from an iPhone. Normally, it's like a relay text number or an internet text number or an Android text number. They usually don't text on iPhones, but they said, "Happy New Year, Mary. This year brings you growth and happiness." And I was like, "There's absolutely no way that's a native speaking, an English speaking American." So I said, "Happy 2026. I guess Bruce hasn't told you yet. My cancer's back." As if I know who this person is, and they're expecting, I'm expecting they should have heard about my tragic medical diagnosis. And they say, "Excuse me, I'm Eva. Isn't this Lisa? Happy New Year." Anyways, I will respond to them later, and we're going to see how long I can keep them going. But usually I like to do something that eventually that's like denigrating to what their culture may be, and tend to have a good time with that. Anyways, because it is the new year, I just wanted to show that the FBI has made an announcement. They actually announced this last week, but there was precious little information about it other than the fact that an alleged terror attack had been thwarted, which was planned for New Year's Eve. Well, we now know the identity of the individual. We know the location of the alleged attack, and we also know that it was once again inspired by ISIS. Funnily enough, I have two ISIS stories to start the show with today. His name is Christian Sturtevant, and he is from Charlotte, North Carolina. These are also two stories about North Carolina. Isn't that funny? So this individual, this young man, had been plotting an ISIS-style inspired terror attack. He was going to do it on New Year's Eve. And according to the release from the Justice Department, this 18-year-old man who has just thrown away his entire life, he lives in Mint Hill. I'm not exactly certain where Mint Hill is, but he was going to go to a grocery store with knives and hammers. Yeah, you know, I don't know how successful he would have been, but I mean, you take a look at the Muslim knife attacks and machete attacks that are taking place all around the world, and undoubtedly he would have been able to hurt somebody. So Sturtevant was communicating online with an individual that he thought was someone that was associated with ISIS. But guess what? It turned out to be an undercover Fed, as it always does. During his online communications with the OC, Sturtevant said, "I will do jihad soon." And then he proclaimed he was a soldier of the state, meaning the Islamic State. Now, in subsequent online communications with this OC, Sturtevant indicated that he had planned to attack a specific grocery store in North Carolina, and he discussed plans to purchase a firearm to use along with the knives and the hammer during the attack. Yes, definitely a Fed. Definitely a Fed. Now, here's the thing. The difference that I think we see between Fed-led attacks that are being thwarted now in the 21st century, as opposed to the Fed-led attacks that were not being thwarted and were being allowed to be continued in previous administrations, is that what the FBI would do, you know, frequently they will use undercover individuals. They will set these sort of traps to see if somebody is interested in doing something like this. Who knows, you know, how this guy got in touch with this OC. But before, what they would do would be to sort of set these guys up in a roster so that they could use them to engage in false flag attacks on American targets. And then once those attacks took place, they would use that as a pretext to perhaps take away some more of our rights or to just have an opportunity to kill some innocent people. But now it seems like what the FBI is doing is sticking with their same modus operandi, and instead of allowing these guys to sort of be on the back bench for a future false flag attack, they're arresting them and they're getting them off the streets. So I am a little conflicted about the way that the FBI does this, but I suppose that it's better that Christian Sturtevant, 18 years old, of Mint Hill, North Carolina, just outside of Charlotte, I suppose it's much better that he reached out to someone who was actually an FBI agent and not someone who was a legitimate supporter of ISIS. So let's hear a little bit from the Department of Justice. They actually put a video out. Oh, Kash Patel also, this is initially where I had heard about this, but all he said was that, you know, we foiled this attack. FBI are going to have a press conference shortly. We want to thank our partners. Now, I believe that this was just earlier this morning, but let's take a listen.
Year. I'm here to announce, in partnership with the Mint Hill Police Department and the FBI, that we have foiled a terrorist attack that was planned to take place on New Year's Eve in Mint Hill, North Carolina.
Anybody here from Mint Hill, or anybody here from Charlotte? I know we've seen people from Charlotte in the chat before.
Now, New Year's Eve, we all know, is a wonderful time where we all celebrate the past year.
Diddly Squad over on Pilled says, CNN said he was planning a mostly peaceful terrorist attack. That sounds on brand for CNN.
We look forward to and plan the next year, and everyone deserves.
Denise, good to see you, Denise. She says, Zach, I received this one earlier today. Let's drink later, bestie. I'm feeling a bit sad right now. What should I say in response? This is from our number. I have no idea who it is, a random number. Okay, so in that instance, I would probably tell them that you got to say something about how you're an alcoholic and they know this. I can't believe that you're reaching out to ask me to get drunk after you know everything I've been through, you know, the accident where I killed that 6-year-old child, or, you know, when I got drunk and I set my house on fire. You were there. You saw how bad it gets. But OK, I guess I will go get drunk with you. Something like that. So I always try to do it at like as traumatic an event as possible and then see if they follow through. There was another one. Where I pretended like the person who was texting me was gay and asked if they had come out to their parents yet. Oh, and I was like, oh, I know your mother's going to love her gay son when she gets to meet your boyfriend or something like that. Yeah, Denise, take screenshots and let me see later. All right. So anyways, they got him. He's not going to be setting any oh God, you know what? There was another one. Oh, you guys, I got these two mixed up. There was another ISIS-inspired terror attack that the FBI had thwarted over in Texas. John Michael Garza of Midlothian. He was charged before providing material support and resources to a designated foreign terrorist organization after he bought bomb-making materials and went to a meeting on Monday, December 22nd, to give this individual, his ISIS brother, the bomb-making materials, but he also met an undercover agent. All right. I was confused, but we actually got two ISIS attackers. All right. Now, remember that woman in North Carolina, the niqab-wearing Muslim woman who was a Democrat but is now running as a Republican, the only Republican running for this state Senate seat? I still have not gotten any takers from our audience. Anybody who lives in Senate District 22 in North Carolina, I am begging you, please run for this seat, because here she is. You know, I was also today years old when I realized that a hijab is the one that leaves your face open and the niqab is the one that even covers your eyes and you've just got like the netting and stuff. So anyways, the crazy thing is this broad did an interview and it's on camera. She also says in the interview, like multiple times, I'm down with ISIS, homie. All right. So this is the Daily Caller that reached out to her. So they asked what conservative principles she considers important. And the number one conservative principle was that I am down for ISIS. God, I guess that's pretty conservative when you're looking at like, you know, radical Islamic terrorism. She also said this like 5 times during the interview. I'm down for ISIS. I stand for ISIS. Now, she was being asked about immigrations and customs enforcement, which is, of course, ICE, not ISIS. She was asked, she chose not to clarify whether or not she was referring to ICE when she was asked for follow-up, and she kind of doubled down on the whole ISIS thing. She said, I'm down for ISIS. The police tell you that you gotta freeze. You have to stop. I can't go to another country without a passport, Alston said. I did experience students who did have some interaction with ISIS, and was it sad? Yes, it was very sad. I cried. I empathize with them, which is why I am for ISIS. I can't tell if she's just stupid or I don't know. I mean, I suppose it's entirely possible. But then she went on to say, I am a Republican. I've matured in my own revelation of what the Republican Party represents, and it looks like me. Based, Gin MD, based. I'm down for ISIS, bro. Oh my goodness. Anyways, this interview was a real humdinger, let me say. All right, so she continues. Are we going back to segregation time? Alston asked in response to a question about criticism of her GOP affiliation. Because I'm a Republican, and I don't really understand the aims and the values of what the party represents. She just said that the party is like, it's like, this is what I represent. So I'm just going to be taken back at what somebody looks like because we're used to the Democrats pussyfooting around. In a confusing anecdote, Alston described a Chinese little boy friend from Jordan High School whose fingernails were affected by the Hiroshima bombing, despite Hiroshima being in Japan, not China. What the hell? Explaining her niqab, Alston said she chose it to avoid turning the election into a beauty contest, emphasizing qualifications over appearance. I don't think she has any qualifications either. I didn't want to go in for the looks. I wanted it to be about who is the most qualified. Well, again, she's the only person who's running for this seat. She argued that it helps focus on substance, incorrectly quoting the preamble as give me liberty or give me peace, which is obviously it's give me liberty or give me death. Republicans, I mean, if we do our history, we already know we are cultured. We are not, excuse my language, but we are not redneck honkies who don't have any education or intellect. Speak for yourself, I guess. On policy, Alston called herself pro-choice regarding firearms, noting Muslims don't carry firearms, but supporting gun rights for security. She tied this in with In God We Trust on currency and rambled about dollars and paradigms, and she did not address her stance on abortion. I produce good fruit, the candidate said. If you would trust me to do a body massage, to teach your children, to hand you a pair of shoes and help you try them on, you can most certainly count on me to produce the policy and make the effective change that District 22 so rightfully deserves. Oh my God, this has got to be a troll. I can't even with this. So the district is pretty much a Democrat stronghold. If you look at the 2024 election, Kamala Harris got 78% of the vote, and it's currently held by a Democrat, Sophia Chitlick. She, too, is facing a primary challenge from the former Durham City Councilwoman, Daedriana Freeman. So Alston is quite literally poised to become the presumptive GOP nominee unopposed in the March primary, unless, of course, another Republican jumps in. Now, public voter records from the North Carolina State Board of Elections reveal she has consistently participated in Democratic primaries and general elections going back to 2008. That includes 2020, 2018, 2016, 2014, 2012, 2010, and 2008. So she is a Democrat for all intents and purposes. And her answers indicate that she has very little understanding of like the fundamentals of our nation. To run as a Republican, North Carolina law requires candidates to be affiliated with a party for at least 90 days before filing. So that means that she must have switched her registration no later than September 18th, which is, of course, after she cast her ballot in 2024 as a Democrat. So, man. This is a pretty good troll. This was a real interview, Nikki. I swear to God, this was a real interview. Let me find some clips from it because I actually saw clips on X. I got to copy her name. This was just about the weirdest thing that I have ever seen. Okay, so x.com. Lakeisha, here she is.
Know that I have been seeing. I am a Republican. I know that I have been seeing a lot of people with hesitation about the party that I choose to represent just because, you know, growing up, you pretty much do what your family does, what, you know, their beliefs are as far as your party. But like I said, I am matured in my own revelation of what the Republican Party represents, and it looks like me. And just the ideology, the ideology of the Democratic Party I just have gotten away from some of those narratives, and I feel that the Republicans have a better viewpoint in which the direction that the United States and North Carolina, especially Durham, should be in. I am a Republican.
So I suppose maybe this could all be based on like, trans and gay agenda stuff, that could be the only reason, but she doesn't even mention that. I mean, that's just me sort of divining what the hell is going on here. I mean, of course, this could also just be a wolf in sheep's clothing type of thing. Like she's just attempting to get into the race. But I mean, hey, man, she didn't want it to be a beauty contest, so she thought it was a good idea to wear the niqab. I don't know. She posed with two different types of Islamic headgear while filing in Durham and has only voted Republican once after years of voting Democrat. Sarah al-Baghdadi. Oh, my God, there is another Muslim running in North Carolina. Sarah al-Baghdadi. Holy crap. What is going on? They are taking over, y'all. Let's see if I can find anything about Sarah al-Baghdadi. Is that her? 0 following, 0 followers. Huh. Yeah, I don't see anything regarding this woman, but apparently she's running in North Carolina as well. Okay, Lee Walden, good to see you, homie. He says, just when you've seen it all, The Twilight Zone is a reality. After all, yeah, The Twilight Zone was a documentary, guys. She's not Somalian. She's something. She's American, but I don't know what, where she hails from. All right, now, take a look at this. This is just absolutely horrible. So, husband and wife, they both work at Space Force. They've got a home in D.C., and they were gone. They are both active duty. They have a child. They had a cat, and they are now victims of a targeted attack. Their home in Washington, D.C. was broken into. It was vandalized, and then the sons of bitches set it on fire while they were out of town and quite literally burned their cat alive. This is Jason and Kaylee Taylor. So they get back to D.C. and they find out that their home is obviously destroyed. Most of their belongings are completely gone. Their vehicle was vandalized with spray painted messages that read, F Trump, F the Space Force. They haven't shared these things online, but there is a GoFundMe that is online for them right now. And when this was originally posted yesterday and I saw it, it was at like $57,000. Let me see how much it's up to now. But they lost everything. And of course they lost their cat. It's almost $100,000 now. It looks like they are looking to raise $130,000. I hope that people support them because this is horrible. I mean, we don't even know if they're Trump supporters. They just work at Space Force. Absolutely horrible. Okay, so it looks like this has been organized by perhaps a friend of the family. We are truly overwhelmed and deeply moved by the outpouring of love, generosity, and kindness being sent our way. We are still trying to navigate everything, but we wanted to take a moment to say another huge thank you to everyone who has continued to share and donate, as well as all the kind gifts that are being sent, or the kind messages that are being sent in. Truly no words to express how much this means to our entire family. We are incredibly grateful and thankful. Thank you so much for the love and for all you do. Gosh, here's some pictures of them. Pulling all of their earthly belongings and seeing what isn't damaged by the fire. There's their baby. Their poor cat. That pisses me off more than anything. I mean, like, things can be replaced, but somebody kills your cat, somebody kills your dog, I would do something terrible to that person. So this occurred right after Christmas, December 28th on Sunday. So they were not at home at the time of the attack. They were traveling with their infant daughter, Ray. Here's a picture of the inside of their home. My goodness. And, oh God, their family cat, Marley, died in the fire. Tragically, in the fire, they also lost Marley, who is a beloved and cherished part of their family. Of course, they don't show pictures of the cat having been killed, but, oh man. But yeah, they've lost everything. I mean, I would imagine they probably have insurance on their home, but like a lot of people, you know, the amount of insurance that would be required to replace everything is probably just not something that they had. I mean, like, you know, I know how much insurance I have here at this home. It wouldn't even be enough if I had a total loss of the house to cover, you know, the house. It would be enough to basically pay the mortgage and then walk away with nothing. So I just feel terrible for these people. And I hope that there's some neighbors with like Ring cameras or something like that. I hope there is some kind of a lead on whoever it was that did this. You know, so how do people know that these people worked at Space Force? You know, we don't know. Anyways, just waiting to see what the ultimate answers are. Frodo Baggins, thank you for being the very first person to donate Bitcoin, which is now available if you go to my Rumble channel. There is a little tip button, and you will see that it is just next to the notification bell. You click tip, and you can donate Bitcoin. Brother, thank you for that. I really appreciated that. That is so cool. I was wondering who was going to be the first one. Also, RugDog196, thank you for Happy New Year, my friend. Happy New Year. Sean Joe, thank you for the cookie and the can. Also, thank you, Boys Blanc, for another cookie. Happy New Year. And thank you to PQuest for the cookie as well. Really appreciate it. Now, take a look at this. I'm sure everybody is probably sick of information about Jeffrey Epstein because, you know, the speed with which the government moves doesn't really much seem like anything is happening with this. But, I mean, we're talking a large tranche of new documents that were just found before the holidays, and that equals about 1 million documents with 5.2 million pages, it looks like. I'm not sure if the 5.2 is in addition to another couple of million that they found, but as it would appear, Maureen Comey had her own broom closet at the SDNY, and just like her father, 5.2 million pages. 5.2 million pages. Seems like Maureen Comey took after her father and hid away a whole bunch of stuff that nobody knew about until, of course, the Epstein Transparency Act was passed, and then they started looking around. Now, maybe that's it, or maybe they knew this stuff was there, and they knew that in order to get it out, they were going to have to push a little bit harder. I hope that Maureen Comey is going to be looking at some type of legal culpability for this, but Deputy AG Todd Blanche wrote, DOJ lawyers from Maine Justice, FBI, SDFL, SDNY are working around the clock through the holidays, including Christmas and New Year's, to review documents. It truly is an all-hands-on-deck approach, and we're asking as many lawyers as possible to commit their time to review the documents that remain. So he noted that the delay in releasing the additional pages is due to the lengthy process required to redact victims' names. So the 5.2 million pages that they are currently going through, we don't know how far along they are, but the one thing we can tell you is that this is way more than was known to have existed before. So they are expected to run this redaction process until January 20th. They have about 400 employees of the Department of Justice currently working around the clock to do this. He said that they have brought in lawyers from the Southern District of Florida, the Southern District of New York, as many different places as they can possibly find them. Now, millions of additional documents appear to keep being found, and it makes me think that the answers that we had from Kash Patel and Dan Bongino previously, when they were like, there's no list, nobody did nothing, nobody didn't do nothing, it makes me think that maybe the answers they were given were related to what was known to be in the possession of authorities at that time, meaning that all of the good stuff, I'm hoping, is going to be in these documents that were hidden away. That remains to be seen. I know I'm standing on a big rug here when it comes to this, but we'll have to just stand by and wait. Hold for processing, if you will. Now, this actually was announced on the 31st. It came out late in the day, but President Trump has ordered the National Guard to be withdrawn from Chicago, Los Angeles, and Portland after the decision from the Supreme Court came down, where they essentially said, you're going to have to bring out the Marines or the Army before you bring in the National Guard, which defies logic, but it is a great argument to make if President Trump is being urged to invoke the Insurrection Act, because that's how he would get the Marines or some other regular armed forces onto the street. Now, President Trump said that we are removing the National Guard from those pre-mentioned cities, despite the fact that crime has been greatly reduced by having these great patriots in those cities, and only by that fact. Portland, LA, Chicago were gone if it weren't for the federal government stepping in. So we will come back, perhaps in a much different and stronger form, when crime begins to soar again, because undoubtedly it will. It's only a question of time, President Trump said. It is hard to believe that these Democrat mayors and governors, all of whom are greatly incompetent, would want us to leave, especially considering the great progress that has been made. Question mark, question mark, question mark. So, seems to indicate that it is a foregone conclusion the military will be brought back. Now, if we look at LA, there's already been a tremendous pull down. You know, it was initially over 4,000. Now it's only been about 100 for the last couple of weeks. In Illinois, those Guard troops were not part of the federal protection mission. They were just kind of there in case it was given a go-ahead to go onto the streets. Also in Portland, there was only about 100 there as well. Now, California Governor Gavin Newsom, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, both are looking to run for president in 2028, so they're trying to get points, basically, against President Trump. I think that once the National Guard are gone, crime is going to pick up very quickly because undoubtedly the governors of these states, the mayors of these cities, they don't have the gumption, the sort of drive necessary to make sure that their citizens are safe. It could be that the citizens of these cities demand for the National Guard to come back in and keep them safe. And at that point, as I said, it may not be the National Guard. It may just go straight to the Marines, which I have to be honest, that really excites me. The idea of that happening, I think, is a good thing. Mighty Patriot, thank you for the shades. And Darla, thank you for the can. She says, I feel a shift in the program. God is in control. He made the demons say fraud, winning. I believe that the Insurrection Act is next on my bingo card. And Zach, you and Lisa are the bomb. You are the bomb as well. Thank you for that. I really appreciate it. And yes, I mean, we are kind of getting into the end game here. Very close to the midterm elections. I know, I'm sick of living on election cycles, but that's kind of the way that things operate here in the United States. It's annoying, but it is the way it is. And I think with all of this fraud that's being exposed, there's going to be some major moves that are revealed here in quite a short amount of time. Now, before we continue with the United States, I just wanted to bow my head and give a moment of silence for yet another irreplaceable Christian monument that has been destroyed in Europe. This time, another very old church, 150-year-old architectural treasure, the Vondelkerk Church in Amsterdam, was set on fire by Muslims. Yes, Muslims, they are blaming fireworks, but it was Muslims lighting off fireworks. This happened all over Europe on the night of New Year's Eve. This is probably going to be a total loss. I would imagine they're going to rebuild. But much like Notre Dame, even if they rebuild it, it's never going to be quite the same. But you have to ask yourself, when is Europe going to learn? This is really, really sad. You've got people taking over, and they're not the people you want taking over. Now, also, Brad and I showed this on New Year's Eve, but the 250th celebration for the United States of America, that 365-day celebration, began at midnight on the 1st, and President Trump kicked it off by beginning with Doug Burgum and the Interior Department's display of patriotism on the Washington Monument. If you would like to stay up to date with what the 250th celebration is doing on a daily basis, you can follow them at X at 250freedom_. But one of the first things they did was display this beautiful, beautiful images, a series of images, rather, on the Washington Monument. They had loudspeakers that were playing. It was absolutely gorgeous, inspiring images in the history of the United States of America. This was real. I had somebody telling me that it was AI. It's not. This is real, and this is what
began not as an idea invented in the minds of men, but as a land discovered. When Christopher Columbus looked west across the endless ocean, he sailed for glory, for gain, and for God. 3 ships traveled into the unknown.
Somebody said, I heard Trump ended Article 5. You talking about Article 5 for NATO? That's actually something I reported on maybe a month ago. That was actually the State Department that had commented on that, and they had said that if Article 5 was invoked, the United States is not going to be fighting Europe's wars. So I don't know if President Trump has done something more overt to, I guess, to suggest that we're not going to take part if Article 5 is invoked. Perhaps let me go to President Trump's Truth Social real quickly and see if he's got anything posted there. I'm not seeing anything yet. Tariffs. There's a building that he posted about. He put another thing out about eagles being killed by the windmills. I'm not seeing anything specific about Article 5. But, here's the thing. I think that what President Trump is doing is allowing NATO to die because we are pulling our money out. We are no longer going to be running NATO. We're also not going to support war on Russia. We're not going to support war if Europe invokes Article 5. So basically, NATO is essentially dead, other than the fact that it's a collection of people who are out there LARPing now as if they would be able to fight a war. So I don't think it's I think that for all intents and purposes, NATO is dead. Whether or not we remain in NATO for the long term, that remains to be seen. But our participation is essentially null and void now. Also, I just wanted to show President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump looking just so dapper and beautiful in her silver dress. Of course, everybody knows silver went to the moon this year. I think it's sitting at around $72, $73 right now. There was a bit of a pullback, but a lot of people were suggesting this might have been a little nod, a little calm sent out by Melania. She's been known to do this before. So, thought that this was great. They looked beautiful. President Trump also took the opportunity to talk about Somalian fraud at Mar-a-Lago at the New Year's Eve celebration. So let's go ahead and listen in. Oh, gonna have to get past this commercial real quickly.
Take back our country. Can you imagine? They stole $18 billion. That's just what we're learning about. That's peanuts. In California is worse, Illinois is worse, and sadly New York is worse. A lot of other places. So we're going to get to the bottom of all of it. It was a giant scam. Other than that, we're going to have a great New Year. Actually, I view that as a reason for a good year because we're going to get to the bottom, but we're going to get that money back. It's all coming back. So I want to just...
All right, we're going to get that money back. It's all coming back. And as you know, as we have discussed, there are investigations all over the place. Spokesperson for the White House today came out and said Nick Shirley's reporting has lit a fire under the ass of the administration. We are determined to ensure that this no longer happens. And as President Trump said, we're going to be paid back. That is highly relevant given today's conversation. Now, I wanted to remind you once again of Beaver D, who has created Somaliscan.com. You can follow her on X, and she is also now offering sponsorships to people like you guys if you want to go out there and do investigative journalism regarding the types of fraud that are happening in like Washington, Maine, Massachusetts, Minnesota, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I said that if you got videos or you got some comments or statements from people who are running these perhaps fraudulent businesses, I would play them here on the show. But Beaver sounds like she's actually in a position to financially sponsor you. So I wanted to put that out there and let you guys know that if you have the ability to go out and do this, you may be able to make a little bit of scratch along the way and fund your efforts. So she says, we need a Nick Shirley for every state. We can help narrow down businesses to look into as well as cover travel fees. So if you are on X, follow @BeaverD and reach out to her. Tell me if that works out. I would really like to see that happen. Lee Walden says something to consider. Clinton's call sign by Secret Service was Eagle, and if I'm not mistaken, it's on the keyboard. Yes, you are correct. Bill Clinton's Secret Service code name was Eagle. That is true. Wounds Are Us says crime is already going up in Chicago. Check out HeyJackass.com and check out the graph. Ooh, HeyJackass.com. I had no idea that was a thing. Let's check it out real quick. HeyJackass.com. Thank you, Wounds Are Us. There we go. All right, so I don't know what it looked like before, and this is a lot of data. Holy jeez. Wow. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and bookmark this. Let me see. 12-28 to 1-3. 3 were shot and killed, 22 were wounded, and homicides 3. Okay. So, wow. Okay. Well, we're going to bookmark this. Thank you, Wounds Are Us. Bookmarks, add bookmark, and there you go. All right, cool. Appreciate it. All right. Now, continuing here, I had mentioned in the very beginning, Tim Walz being arrested for his helping with the fraud and the misappropriation of money. Now, Jeffrey Tucker, he is an author, works at the Epoch Times. He says the FBI can, in fact, arrest state governors for the misuse of federal funds. Whoever in the circumstance described in subsection B of this section exists, 1, being an agent of an organization or of a state, local, or Indian tribal government, or any agency thereof, embezzles, steals, obtains by fraud. We know specifically Tim Walz has had fraudulent money delivered to his campaign account, at least $10,000. I would not put the total at that. I would suggest it's probably a lot more. Or otherwise, without authority, knowingly converts to the use of any person other than the rightful owner, or intentionally misapplies property that is valued at $5,000 or more. We're talking billions of dollars in the state of Minnesota. Tim Walz, before the holiday, came out and admitted that he actually and the state government were aware of fraud that had been going on for quite some time, but they chose for some reason not to say anything to the people because racism. They didn't want people going after Somalians, apparently. It looks to me like Tim Walz has already met the terms necessary to get the indictments that would be, delivered by something like this. Now, Kick Dreaming says, check out General Flynn's most recent tweet. Okay, let's go. He says, thank you, Real Tom Homan. You are a bright light in this dark world where children are abused. To those who served in the Joe Biden administration and enabled this horror, I hope you rot in hell. Okay, so this is Tom Homan mentioning the 129,000 missing children that have been found thus far in President Trump's second administration. Take a listen.
500,000 children were smuggled in this country under Joe Biden. They lost track of 300,000, couldn't find them. As of this week, we have located over 129,000 of these kids that last administration wasn't even looking for.
And I did want to ask you about these children, Mr. Homan, because under the Biden administration, we did not have a clear number on how many missing children there were. And I think for the average American, they kind of forgot how horrific things were in the country over the last 4 years. Can you talk to us about what are the situations you're finding some of these children in?
Well, we're not going to let them forget about what they did. Again, right around half a million children were smuggled into the country, separated from their families.
Okay, so, correction, not tweet, truth. And General Flynn is suggesting a tax revolt, which I can actually get down with. Please tell me why I or anyone should pay taxes, federal, state, or local. We are now potentially over $1 trillion stolen by corrupt politicians and their illegal cronies in numerous states that allow children leering centers and other money-sucking criminal childcare and medical support chop shops. What the hell is going on? Real Donald Trump, please, sir, we need to hear from you. Leaving this up to the DOJ isn't going to do the trick. Well, President Trump is commenting. Obviously, he just spoke about this on New Year's Eve, but I think obviously General Flynn is looking for something a little bit more direct. But again, I think what we're looking at here is President Trump trying to stay as hands-off publicly as possible so that when the indictments and the justice comes down, eventually it must. Because if it doesn't, people are going to be up in arms and they're never going to trust anybody ever again. When it happens, President Trump has got to be able to have some plausible level of distance between them. Now, General Flynn says over $1 trillion. I saw some figures earlier today which showed that on a yearly basis, we're looking at probably $1.5 trillion in fraud, which makes up the federal budget every single year. What that means is that if our budget is $2.5 trillion, more than half of our budget is all going to fraud. So if you get rid of all of that fraud, if you cull the fraud as it stands, then you could legitimately stop taxing anyone making, say, less than $200,000 a year. So I've seen a lot of people talking about a tax revolt as a result of all this stuff, and I am fully in favor of it, especially now this goes to speak to the comment about Tim Walz being indicted over this. Especially when you go back and you know how long this has been known about and how long the investigations and lack of attention to this have been going on. The entirety of Tim Walz's administration as 2 terms in the Minnesota state government. Here is a former investigator, yet another whistleblower. Undoubtedly, he's going to be speaking to Jim Comer and the Oversight Committee. He was part of a 20-member task force whose only job it was to investigate and arrest the scammers. But once they got to the point where they were going to arrest the scammers, the Minnesota state government shut them down. Once again, speaking here with Liz Collin of Alpha News.
Immigration skills and so forth like that. So I was advised to start attending the planning meetings they were having with this task force. So over the next several weeks, months, I attended upwards of 3, I believe, planning meetings with this task force of about 20 personnel of various law enforcement agencies, the Health and Human Services, BCA, St. Paul PD, Minneapolis PD, and it was all revolving around fraudulent daycares. They were setting up sham daycares, fake bills, fake students, or just enrolling students that never came, which just all fake daycares. That's the easiest way to explain it. And then over the next several months, we executed several search warrants throughout South Minneapolis, Lake Street, and different areas at these daycares. Never, now one of the daycares I served warrants on, not one person was ever present. Just empty buildings, stacks of invoices and student records of people that our surveillance showed never went there. Nobody ever came in and out of these daycares. It was just completely empty from my experience. Never was occupied daycare. And like I said, we worked that for 3-4 months. I was assigned that case just as
all right, so I saw somebody correct me in the chat. Yeah, the budget was actually $6.9 trillion. So I don't know what I was referring to there. I saw a tweet from was it Wall Street Silver? I'll look it up in just a second, and I'll get clearer on it. But I didn't have it in front of me.
As a support person to assist with anything needing as far as financial experiences we have with HSI and our immigration authorities and ability to pull records and stuff like that. And ultimately, the task force just kind of went away. Not sure whatever happened to it. The meetings of,
So, yes, they had the ability to do something about this many years ago. We knew about the investigations going back at least as far as 2012. And every single time someone was close enough to do something about it, they were shut down by Minnesota state government. Now, of course, even though this has been going on for quite some time, it's been documented. There have been a number of cases. I mean, recently, of course, the Feeding Our Future, we're talking, 80 some odd indictments, some 57 or so that have been convicted, others that are still ongoing. CNN goes to Minnesota and they attempt to smear Nick Shirley. They paint him as a MAGA streamer, as a Trump supporter only, not that he would be an American citizen who would be interested in helping to stop fraud from taking place. And their investigation essentially comprised of them following Nick Shirley around and insinuating that he wasn't being truthful. So take a look at this.
Done enough. I mean, they would say, look, these fraud cases have been going on.
Okay, so she asks, why would you want to do this? Basically, there's already investigations going on. Why would you want to go out and look for this? As I've said before, that's effing journalism, okay? I mean, this is what you're supposed to do. The story for the mainstream media always becomes about the messenger, not the message. And it's so clear that they're playing cover-up for the Democrats in the state and, of course, the fraudsters themselves.
Done enough. I mean, they would say, look, these fraud cases have been going on, but they've already done like 80 indictments. The cases have been going on, for years.
And why did I show up one day in Minnesota and go to all these daycares, no children? They're receiving millions of dollars. We uncovered nearly $110 million in fraud in one day.
How do you know that all the allegations that you're making are true?
How do I know that they're true? Well, we showed you guys what was happening, and then you guys can go ahead and make your own analysis.
We're coming so we can make our own analysis. Are you 100% sure you're true?
Yeah.
Are you 100% sure you're true? That is a retarded question. Are you 100% sure you're true? Well, of course I'm 100% sure that I'm true. I'm the one doing the journalism, you dumb bitch.
I am 100% sure I'm true.
CNN is looking into Shirley's claims.
Hi, my name's Whitney Wild. I'm a correspondent for CNN.
We reached out to several of the daycares featured in the now viral video. Only one daycare facility answered and said they are a legitimate business.
Have you
Oh, okay. So I guess we can stop there. Out of all of the 10 that we called, only one of them answered. The rest of them didn't answer. So I guess we can't pass judgment.
seen the videos, purporting that some of these daycares don't have kids inside?
Minnesota Republicans say despite the new focus from the Trump administration, they have been sounding the alarm on fraud for years.
And they have. That is the truth. And, of course, CNN has never had an interest in this at any point in the past. CNN's argument is essentially, well, you, as an independent journalist, should not want to go look into this. And, of course, our only job is to try to smear you so that when you do find stories that we as mainstream media access journalists didn't bother to look into, we can then denigrate you and your position. CNN has zero credibility, and it's really funny to watch them trying to play mop-up on this. Thank you to Lee Walden, who says, lest we forget what the boss said to the lamestream media, we caught them all. Drip, drip, flood, heavy seas ahead. Stay resolute. Thank you for your love of country. The promise of America will never die. I 100% believe this, and I've always said that 2026 is going to be that flood. 2025 was a series of drips. It was a number of initiatives that President Trump got into. A lot of things were said. We're going to be doing this. We're going to start here. I think there was tremendous progress made, and I think that 2026 is the year the dam breaks open. Thank you as well to Sean Joe for the cookie. Filter Dog, who says, who had the Secret Service codename Eagle? Again, Bill Clinton. Darla says, Zach, why don't we see videos of the war between Ukraine and Russia? Well, there are some videos that come out from the war in Russia. I mean, I played one the other day from drones that were from Russia hitting Ukrainian targets. But unlike the early days of the war, the fighting has just gotten so devastating. Ukraine locked up journalists that were coming in and were covering it. Of course, Russia has clamped down on frontline journalists as well. It was just getting too dangerous. There were a number of people who got killed. There was a guy, Russ, that I actually knew who lived in Russia, and he was killed during the earlier days of the fighting. He, unfortunately, was actually kidnapped by, like, Russian gangsters, and they attempted to extort him for money, and they ended up blowing him up in a car. It was terrible. It was a tragic, tragic story, and it looked horrible for the Russians. But I'm not, I'm not quoting some mainstream source. I mean, John confirmed that for me. I mean, he was in fact killed by some bad people from Russia. I thought certainly it must have been Ukrainians that did it, because the Ukrainians had a price on his head, a bounty on him. All I see is videos of people living freely and not one Somali in the background. Something stinks. Central casting. Trump said it. So you're seeing videos from the western portion of Ukraine, which is Kiev. The fighting is taking place in the eastern portion of Ukraine. The people in Donbass and Zaporozhye and Kherson, those areas, those people are, they don't even have internet. I mean, I don't know if they have electricity that is reliable. I mean, like, they are surrounded by fighting, and that's the reason that you're not seeing videos coming out of there. It's access. No Thanks Joe says, happy Friday, Lisa and Zach. I think we're going to make this weekend the finish off. I wish to you a happy and healthy new year, but that means you're still, and so please take advantage. God bless you both. Much love to you, my friend. Patrick Lancaster on YouTube is on the ground with Russia, showing videos all the time. Just uploaded one with him rescuing his mother-in-law. Okay, you know what? I haven't looked at Patrick's feed in a long time. Hold on. I will jump over to Patrick's Twitter account. Hold on. So, okay, so this is Patrick. Oh, I'm not following him any longer. This is Patrick Lancaster's feed right here. Looks like he hasn't posted since just after Christmas, but he was also recently in Venezuela, it looks like. And it looks like right around Christmas he was in Colombia. So I don't know when he left Russia, but he's down in Venezuela early December. But yeah, I know Patrick was on the front lines he was on the front lines, filming what was happening between Russia and Ukraine. So there actually is fighting going on there. I mean, I believe that to be true, and I know that not only from certain sources that I check, but there's a lot of Russian accounts that I follow which are posting videos. I just don't always show them because it's a lot of people getting blown up, and I don't. He posts on YouTube. Yeah, you can follow him on YouTube as well. All right, now. Getting back to the known extent of this fraud. Before this all broke very recently, there was an OIG report that was done on Minnesota's child care assistance program, and they were looking for fraud. They were checking attendance, and they only looked at a sample set of all of the 1,100, 1,200 providers that they have there in Minnesota. But among that sample, 11% of the payments had some type of flaw. What they were looking for was to ensure that the children that were being billed for actually went to these daycares. Now, I don't know what the methodology was to ensure that these kids were there. Undoubtedly, there was some type of record taking that was being done, but clearly this kind of stuff can be faked. But let's hear from a local affiliate.
This audit, conducted by the Department of Health and Human Services Office of Inspector General, was published back in May. It focused on attendance compliance required by providers receiving public assistance to help lower-income families afford their child care. And based on the review, the feds concluded that an estimated 11% of all payments the state made had at least one error related to attendance and the payments it doled out.
Between the two of these child care centers, they're pulling in about $3 million a year, and there are no children.
Of course, so much attention right now focused on the child care facilities featured in this now viral video. and whether the state was properly monitoring whether the centers were in fact caring for the number of kids they were licensed for to receive taxpayer-funded assistance. This audit looked back at data collected in 2020.
Okay, so they had 200 randomly selected child care assistance payments. So that's the payments going from the federal government to the providers. 38 of those 200 showed that they did not comply with the requirements related to the attendance. So there was no proof, and 200 is obviously a fairly small sample out of the 1,200 or so total. Exactly 1,155. Now, this was also back in 2023. We know that in 2024 and in 2025, the amount of money that was being sent from the federal government to Minnesota exploded. So it's totally legit to suggest that if this was done for the 2024 year or 2025, likely a much larger sample would be found to have fraudulent payments in them.
23, concluding that Minnesota, quote, did not comply with federal and state attendance documentation requirements for some payments made under its child care assistance program.
And that right there is what will bring indictments for Tim Walz and for the agencies inside Minnesota at the DHS or whatever other governing body was supposed to be doing their due diligence. Because it's not just that the daycare providers didn't provide the information. It's that the state of Minnesota itself did not comply with the federal requirements in order to meet the requirements to have these payments processed legally.
Auditors looked at 200 randomly selected assistance payments, finding attendance-related issues with 38 of those payments. By their math, the feds estimated 11% of all payments were likely to have some flaw. For some perspective here, we are talking about $231.4 million in child care claims going to more than 1,150 providers. Among the errors found, attendance records for a particular child were unavailable at the center site. Sign-in or sign-out times were missing or included inaccurate dates. And in some instances, a child was marked absent by the provider, but that was not reflected in the government billing system.
So even though they told the government the kid wasn't there, the government was still just paying them, not bothering to do their due diligence. Let's see. Cyrus the Great says, sorry, I guess it's been a month or two, but his mother-in-law was in Pkwy. She rescued every stray dog in the city. I actually did see that one. I was wondering if perhaps there was like a new video you're referring to.
The audit contains 3 recommendations for the state moving forward, including collecting overpayments that the review exposed, providing better oversight of its child care assistance program, including routine reviews of attendance records, and continuing to automate attendance records through real-time electronic reporting for the child care providers.
Of course, now that all money has been shut off to the state of Minnesota, these things are no longer going to be, choices that they can make. I mean, they're going to be mandatory changes, and they will have to be significant across the board. But the state of Minnesota is pushing back on this. They are attempting to not be held accountable. But, of course, in my opinion, nothing holds people accountable like a sweeping series of indictments. Now, before we continue, I have a brief message from our friends over here on Rumble. You guys, I want to share a very quick story about a farming family supporting this channel. 8 years ago, they had a brother. He returned from Afghanistan. He was suffering from significant injuries. And when he came back, they watched as he became a shell of his former self. He lost the ability to function. And we've got, certain things in play like FDA restrictions. So we can't tell you exactly what was wrong with him. But his friends knew that if he tried CBD, it might be good for him. So they kept suggesting it, and they tried dozens of CBD products, but nothing that they were trying helped. So out of frustration, they began to create their own product, and they started making it to help their friends and family. They could have CBD that they knew was going to be as clean and powerful as possible. And then doctors started asking if they could carry it, and it took off. So now they speak at medical conventions, and they help others across the United States who are suffering from similar things. Now, while a lot of companies are going to have maybe 1 to 10 compounds that are active in their CBD oil, this oil has up to 50 compounds. They've got 8 things that make their product different, and they make balms, gummies, pet products, etc. They're called Emerald Med, and you should check these guys out. If you get their CBD and you don't notice a big difference, they're actually going to give you a total refund. So if you want to support a business that supports my channel and others on Rumble and free speech with marketing dollars, and if you need a source of CBD that is real, they are still running that New Year's deal. So you can click that link below or use the QR code on screen and try Emerald Med and get 40% off today. Get extreme muscle and joint relief, get significant inflammation and circulation support, support quality sleep or even daytime calm. They're worth a try at least once because, again, they do have that money-back guarantee. So just click that link below and use the code for up to 40% off 2 items today. Thank you very much to them. And thank you to you guys for hanging out with us today. Appreciate you. All right. So again, we have a documented pattern of behavior here from Minnesota state government regulators, from the watchdogs, the people who are supposed to ensure that the fraud that is being exposed at epidemic levels could not or should not be taking place. And significant efforts were taken to prove to these people exactly what was happening. And at every single juncture, it was covered up, it was ignored, and again, whistleblowers were threatened. Now, today, there are 1,000. So back in 2023, at 1,155 daycare centers. Today, you've got 1,794 daycare centers in Minnesota. Out of that 1,794, 1,235 on this list have owners that have Somali-sounding names. And there are a total of 111,015 children that are registered at those 1,235 likely Somali daycares. This is where it gets interesting. The total Somali population in the state of Minnesota is effectively 84,000. I've seen figures between 90 and 120,000, but on record for the state of Minnesota, population total of 84,000. And the percent of that 84,000 that are on welfare is 81%. So my real question is, how can 84,000 total Somalians have 111,015 children? That would mean that there are more children than the total number of Somalians that are accepted to be living in the state of Minnesota. That is yet another indication of massive fraud taking place at these daycare centers. What you're probably seeing is multiple children being registered at multiple daycares and payments being sent to these daycares in these same children's names on multiple different ways. You might have disambiguations of the names, like, you got Mohammed at one daycare, then you got Mohammed bin Mohammed at another daycare, and then Mohammed at another care, but they're all the exact same kid. Now, here's the other thing. With 81% of the Somalians on welfare, that would mean that their parents aren't working. If they're not working, then why in the hell do they need childcare? And do we have any non-Somali children that are going to these Somali daycare centers? I think the answer is most likely no. You take a look at what happened to Nick Shirley the other day when he suggested that little Joey might want to go to one of these daycares. And literally every time he brought it up, people were like, no, it's not a good fit for little Joey. We don't want any white kids here. So anyways, every place you look, it is so obvious that you've got massive levels of fraud taking place. Thank you to Sean Joe for the cookie over there on Pilled as well. Now, here's the other thing. Out of the 10 daycare facilities that Nick Shirley visited the other day in that video, and he's also mentioned that part 2 is about to come out, and it is going to blow the lid off this story. Apparently, it's even worse than part 1. But out of those 10, 5, half of them were official meal sites for the Feeding Our Future nonprofit fraud, where, again, some 80-odd people have been indicted and 57 or so have been convicted so far. So that seems to indicate, again, a level of interconnectedness to the fraud, and it's yet another indictment of the Somali community at large there in Minnesota. So what were these meal sites? Well, this is where the people would go, allegedly, to be served the meals that were being paid for from these COVID funds that were being run through these Somali-owned nonprofit organizations. Again, you've got over 90 people charged, at least 60 people who have been convicted. Out of these 10 daycare facilities, 5 of these businesses got nearly $5 million from Feeding Our Future between 2018 and 2021. And the 5 businesses that were featured in Shirley's report have not been legally accused of any wrongdoing. But when you know that there were no actual children that were receiving food, there is only one conclusion that you can come to. These daycare centers don't seem to have any children that are there. So if they're not serving children and Feeding Our Future wasn't serving food, then what was the relationship between the daycare center and the Feeding Our Future fraud? I mean, certainly they must have known that the Feeding Our Future was receiving a lot of money to otherwise feed children that didn't exist. What these parents usually do is they give the children's name to the daycare center. The daycare center gets the payment for that child's name, even though they're not giving any services, and then the parent gets a kickback from the daycare center. So is it unreasonable to imagine that the daycare center was getting a kickback from Feeding Our Future? I think it's the only thing that makes sense. So out of those 10 daycare centers that a local paper, the Minnesota Star Tribune, visited, they said that only 4 of them had any children present whatsoever. And out of the other 6, those facilities were either closed or, of course, employees didn't open the door. In one facility that was licensed for over 10 children, over 100 children, there were only 50 that were present. Want to bet that all 100 were being billed for that day. And the daycare center that was the big story inside Nick Shirley's expose, the Quality Leering Center, they have, as we have shown in the past, had a slew of violations over the past several years. They were raided by the FBI in 2015. The ownership was slightly transferred into somebody else's name with a new name. And as I told you the other day, in 2024, they got in trouble for not reporting a death or a serious injury or a fire or an emergency. We still don't know what that was. I find it difficult to believe that a child died there. And, considering that no kids are generally present, I mean, I wonder what that could have been. You've got a big story here that just continues to get bigger the more you look at it. And here is a direct connection once again between Feeding Our Future and this daycare fraud scam. So Amy Bach is a Minnesota resident. She's actually the ringleader of the Feeding Our Future scheme. She had the nonprofit, and she's the one who was basically running it from the top. And then all of these Somalians were working with her to bring in all of these people and siphon this money off. She's actually listed as the point of contact on at least 47 taxpayer-funded childcare centers in Minnesota. She's currently in prison, y'all. This is Amy's mugshot. She was convicted already. She doesn't look too happy, and her skincare regimen is total shit at this point. But you can see here on the list, coming directly from the state of Minnesota, she is currently still the single point of contact for 47 of these daycare centers. I haven't obviously been there. I don't know anybody who has visited every single one of these. There are quite a few of them. Many of them probably don't exist at all. But Amy having the person listed as the person to call seems to indicate a much deeper level of interconnection. Yes, she's not Somalian, but she was the owner of that 501c3 that ran the Feeding Our Future scam. There have been a number of European-descended Minnesotans that were convicted as a part of this Feeding Our Future fraud. It's not only Somalians, it's just mostly Somalians. All right, now, this is a very interesting one. I can't remember if I played one of these clips for you guys on New Year's Eve, but there were 2 very suspicious women who spoke at one of these events shortly after HHS announced that they were suspending all payments because of fraud. Now, here, this woman is clearly reading from a script. I know I played this on Altered State with Brad, but I can't remember if I played it for you guys before that. So she's reading from her script, and when she gets to a point where she is told to speak about fraud, she says fraud is bad. She realizes that she is saying fraud is bad, and because she says this, she freaks out.
If childcare is cut, I'm unable to work or go to school. I understand fraud is bad.
What's wrong with that? Also, take a look at this like 5-carat diamond she's got here on her ring finger. So she's a mother and and she's going to school and she's working and she's on welfare, but she's got this gigantic diamond on her finger. So there's a man in her life. If she's working and going to school, then why isn't the husband watching these kids? I mean, it's not a question that is meant to have an answer, but yeah, when she says fraud is bad, I think this is the first time that she had ever read this statement. It was given to her. And of course, in her mind, in the mind of all of these other Somalians, fraud isn't bad. This is like a tax on the infidels. So she's totally cool with it. And all she's trying to do is make sure that the money keeps flowing.
If childcare is cut, I'm unable to work or go to school. I understand fraud is bad.
It is bad. You're supposed to say that. But she can't continue. Oh, so brave. So brave. Patrick says, Zach, that white woman was listed on the... Oh, was she listed on... Hold on. I should have looked. History, reopen, last close tab. Okay, let's take a look. To urban learning, Whittier, Sunshine, Teo, diversity. I'm just looking for quality. I see quick start. Ah, there it is. Quality Learning Center, Amy Block. Ha, 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 ha. Thank you, Patrick. Isn't that funny? Amy is at Quality Learning Center. All right. Now, so after she speaks, that white woman that's standing behind her, she also comes forward to speak. And she, oh, you know what? I bookmarked this one and it's not in this article. Hold on. File, new tab. Hold on. Let me get in here and I'll pull this up because I know I didn't play this one for you guys. I played this with Brad the other night. She also gets up to speak and she has a similarly strange moment when she mentions fraud, which should make no one uncomfortable if you have a common goal of ending fraud and stopping people from taking advantage and stealing money from the federal government. It's totally natural to say fraud is bad. We shouldn't do fraud. Unless, of course, you are engaging in fraud and secretly you want that fraud to continue. And simply by mentioning fraud at the time that you're standing next to Somalians, it gives people the idea that Somalians commit fraud because they do. It's not a revolutionary concept. Come on, where are you? I tell you, I look at so many tweets every single day. Oh man, did I not? No, I'm almost there. I'm almost there. I am now at the point that I was on Wednesday night. Oh, we're so close. We're so close. Come on. Oh, dude, I guess I didn't bookmark it. That's my bad. Okay, so let me play this longer clip. Maybe it's included in this longer clip. Okay, here. Let's try this.
And I do see some signs over here that say stop fraud, and I agree, stop it. There are wait lists for these programs that are years long. There is fraud. There is
fraud. That was it. There is fraud. And she realizes that she's talking about something that's real. There is fraud. But of course, you can't admit that if you're standing with the Somali community.
The fraud that is occurring is not at the hands of families.
Yeah, it's actually at the hands of families because there's no way that all of those kids can be there. Yes, thank you very much, Optizi. We just found it live, but that's okay. I appreciate it. Now, of course, there is also some more information that came out about the business that was allegedly robbed of all of their relevant employee records and all of the records for kids, for employment. We saw the video of the owner of that daycare essentially blaming Nick Shirley and saying that it's only because of racism that people are even looking at us. But take a look at this. Allegedly, the people who tried to break into this place came in through one wall, couldn't get in, tried coming in through the door, couldn't come in. And then eventually got in somehow.
Of what they say vandals did. Now, this is where they say the vandals got into the daycare through.
Now, this to me looks like somebody was looking for some money in the wall.
Cinder block and appeared to be unsuccessful when trying many other ways. The daycare says it appears the vandals first tried to saw into the door of the Family Dollar next door in the shopping center, but that didn't work. The manager claims those who broke in went straight to the office, stealing information of the many children who were taken care of here.
So just imagine, if you will, for a moment. People break in very loud into this daycare coming through the Dollar Tree, and then they go to the filing cabinet and they steal reams of paper. Of course, that didn't happen. You all know that didn't happen. These records probably never existed. And the Somalis who run this place think, well, if we just say that the records don't exist because they got stolen, then obviously they're not going to be able to check. But here's the thing. There is actually like a backtracking that can be done through the state, and the DHS whistleblowers from the state of Minnesota, DHS, they've already come out and said, hey, now that this guy says the records don't exist, this is the way that you actually figure out who was there and who they were reporting was there, and then you can cross-reference it with the amount of money that was being paid out. So that information is being given to the Oversight Committee as well. Thank you, Optizi, for finding that, buddy. Appreciate you. Sean Joe, thank you for the cookie as well. All right. Now, also, the DOJ's Civil Rights Division, Harmeet Dillon, had previously sued Minnesota for their voter registration information. Now, Harmeet is demanding records pertaining to their vouching system, which is how they register voters. Again, this is part of the Civil Rights Act of 1960. The DOJ Civil Rights Division can come in and demand this information at any time. But the way that Minnesota does it, Harmeet is saying, is inconsistent, read illegal, and out of compliance with the Help America Vote Act of 2002. So what they do in Minnesota is you can register to vote on day one. You can walk into a polling place. You're not registered. You ask to register. You do it right there without having to prove that you're a citizen or anything like that, and they will give you a ballot. Not only that, you can vouch for up to 8 people and walk away with 8 empty ballots. And then those ballots can be filled out and then brought back again with no checks or balances. So this is also going to be spectacularly bad for the state of Minnesota because they have been facilitating voter fraud at a massive scale. Now, also, more bad news from the Small Business Association. Kelly Loeffler and SBA, after they cut off all SBA loans and said, we're going to claw this back, they started looking through records, and they looked specifically at PPP and EIDL loans that were given out during the pandemic. And once again, they have determined that almost 7,000 small business borrowers were taking money from the SBA fraudulently, and so they have all been suspended. So according to this internal review of the Paycheck Protection Program and the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, the approvals that were handed out in Minnesota from these 7,000 borrowers total almost $500 million, almost $500 million, about $400 million in likely fraudulent loans. This is money that, as we all know, was supposed to keep small businesses afloat and to make sure that American workers could continue going to work and getting paid during the pandemic. Now, Kelly said that the agency reviewed these thousands of pandemic-era loans approved in Minnesota, and they were able to find either 6,900 or 7,900. They quote both of them here. Okay, so I'm sorry. It is 6,900 borrowers with 7,900 loans. So some of those borrowers were able to get both PPP loans and EIDL loans. So she said over the last week, this is on X, she released this yesterday. Over the last week, SBA has reviewed thousands of potentially fraudulent pandemic-era PPP and EIDL loans approved in Minnesota. This will also be done in every other state, just FYI. Today, our agency took action to suspend 6,900 Minnesota borrowers amid suspected fraudulent activities. In total, these borrowers were approved for 7,900 PPP and EIDL loans worth approximately $400 million. These individuals will be banned from all SBA programs. That includes disaster loans and more going forward. They will never be able to borrow from the SBA system ever again. Also, every single case is now being referred for prosecution. And after years, the American people will finally begin to see the criminals who stole from law-abiding taxpayers held accountable. This is just the first state. Again, they are now looking at every single state in the nation. Loeffler made clear that Minnesota is only the beginning. The suspected Minnesota fraudsters that SBA suspended yesterday took out nearly 8,000 loans totaling $400 million. It's why we are investigating every socialist welfare state where criminal networks thrived at the expense of law-abiding job creators and taxpayers. She said out of $1.2 trillion that went out through SBA loans during COVID. Now, remember, these loans were to help millions of small businesses keep millions of employees on their payroll. Most were legitimate. But the fact is we had organized crime operating around these, like we see with the Somali crime ring in Minnesota. The fact that they are referring to it as a Somali crime ring is highly notable because that means organized crime, racketeering, RICO charges. We have gone back through loans that the Biden regime tried to forgive that were known to be fraudulent. That's why we had already 13,000 of these that we knew had already been marked as fraudulent. We were able to quickly find 8,000 of those and make sure that they cannot benefit from our service. But now, as I mentioned, we're going to do that state by state, and we're going to make sure that we understand the breadth, the depth, and the methods of these crimes, and that we hold more states accountable. So again, this will be yet another system within the state of Minnesota that state regulators, state employees and appointees and elected officials could potentially be held liable for. Perhaps also becoming part of the racketeering charges that undoubtedly are going to come. That will be the quickest and the easiest way, in my opinion, to get these people the justice that all of us are looking for. All right. Now, you also may remember this man right here. I played this video previously, but he wanted to thank every American taxpayer for taking care of him because he gets to eat 5 times a day and he doesn't have to work and he gets his the welfare is paid for by the American citizens, and he loves that he's taking advantage of it. Your favorite Somali freeloader, he said. Farah News America. This is on TikTok.
Your favorite Somalian freeloader. Hey, thank you for your tax dollar. I'm eating really good. Thank you for taking care of me. I love you, Americans. You've been such a hospitality. Not hostility. You show us hospitality. That's good. We appreciate you. Because of your tax dollar, I get to eat 5 times a day. Before, it was 80 cents. They used to send us back in Africa 80 cents. Now, I get this EBT card loaded each month with 400 to 500. The freeloader, your favorite freeloader. I'm enjoying myself. Enjoying this food. Taking vacation here. I'm in my free house provided for me by Enhan. So I'm enjoying myself. Please do not disturb me.
So yes, obviously the balls on this guy. He thought that it was safe to do this. Well, it's not safe to do this, and he's actually being arrested by, it looks like, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. You can see him here being hauled away in handcuffs. So this is this guy being arrested. This was his TikTok. Oh, no, wait. This is freaking AI. I'm pissed. I'm pissed I got took. This is AI. He made this. Fake news. I'm sorry, guys. I saw it and I got excited. Hang on. I'm going to go to his account now. And he is still alive and well, living on the outside. Woke up, New Year, EBT load, $350 US.
I'm eating, I'm sorry.
Look, he's got a gold watch on. Oh, man. Hopefully that will be real in the future. Thank you so much to Micro Toolmaker, where we go one, we go all. Good to see you, buddy. Also, thank you for the 10 subscriptions you dropped for the viewers over here on Rumble. Really appreciate you, homie. Hope you had a wonderful New Year and a Merry Christmas. Real quick, before we continue with a message from Stephen Miller, we do have a quick message from Rumble and 1775 Coffee. My friends, if you still have not yet had the opportunity to try 1775 Coffee, you really need to. They've got some of those starter kits available, which means you're going to get their bold dark roast, their smooth medium roast, and their Vitality Mushroom Coffee that hits you with clean energy and laser focus, but no crash. All of it made from single origin, small batch, toxin, and mold-free beans, the highest quality you can get. Plus, you're going to get a couple of free goodies, the gold spoon clip, the strong frother, and a black 1775 tumbler. It's $170 worth of coffee and gear, and it's all yours for $99. This is for the people who have been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble and wondering if it's actually worth it. It truly is, and you can find out yourself by heading over to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit before they're gone. Get yourself a package of bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something just like Rumble does. You can also use that QR code that you see on screen. Thank you very much to them. And thank you very much once again to you guys. Yeah, the balls on that guy. Can't even. So clearly he thinks that nothing is going to happen to him. I can only hope that they're paying attention. At the end of the day, I think that all these people are going to be rounded up, and it's going to be a rude awakening. We'll see what happens with him in the future. Now, just to impress upon you how seriously the administration is taking this, this is Stephen Miller discussing that breadth, the depth of this fraud, and just how serious this truly is. I think that we're all on the same page. We know that this is probably the largest single scam that has ever been exposed in American history. Doesn't mean there hasn't been a larger scam at another point in time, or that there may not be something bigger even going on right now. But we've got to start someplace, and this is the kind of thing that can bring all of us Americans together, because fraud is obviously hurting every single one of us. Also, thank you to Untamed Nation for rating the channel. Appreciate you.
On what we have found in this country. Based on what we have found so far, we believe that the Somali fraud operation in Minnesota is theft of taxpayer dollars through welfare fraud in American history. We believe that we have only scratched the very top of the surface of how deep this goes. And you're familiar with all the scams with pretending that children have autism who are not in fact autistic, with pretending to enroll people in food programs when in fact nobody was ever enrolled, and engaging in massive fraud, lying, and theft and grift on a scale we've never seen before in American history. The total bill, the total tab for this is going to be far beyond the numbers we've already seen reported. We believe the state government is fully complicit in this scheme, and we believe that what we are going to uncover is going to shock the American people. Look, based on the records that we already have, this is a significant undercount, by the way. 75% of the Somali population in Minnesota is on welfare. But that's likely a significant undercount of just how much of a financial burden the Somali refugee population is imposing on this country.
So, yes, I believe that is an undercount. Artsy Jones says Trump is canceling protective status for Somalians next week. He actually canceled it back in November. Now, TPS, temporary protected status for Somalians, was set to extend until March. The cancellation of it, of course, is it's sort of in flux. So I actually looked this up so that I could see what the status of it was, because he had already called for it to be ended and canceled it. Now, there's only a small number of the total number of Somalians here in the United States that actually are in possession of temporary protected status. It's only like 700 people. All the rest of them have already gotten in and gotten some other form of legal status. But there are, okay, so this was, TPS is a humanitarian safeguard established under the Immigration and Nationality Act. And according to the statute, the government may designate a country for TPS when circumstances such as armed conflict, natural disasters, or other extraordinary and temporary situations render it unsafe for nationals to return. Somalia has had TPS since 1991 due to the Civil War. DHS has extended it. Now, the law stipulates TPS can only be revoked when the specific conditions that warranted the initial designation have fundamentally changed. DHS cannot merely assert that the country is progressing or select isolated instances of improvement. It must demonstrate that Somalia is now secure. So legally, the government is required to perform a thorough and good faith assessment of the conditions in the country at least 60 days prior to the expiration of TPS. And again, that officially expires in March. So President Trump calling for this to be ended. It will require the DHS, if they follow through with the pre-assigned prescription, then DHS would have to do this review. They would have to say there's no reason for us to keep TPS open, although Somalia is a war-torn shithole. Let's be really honest. She says, God bless, Zach. Thank you for all you do to bring the truth. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. But I think that regardless, the government, because we have control of DHS, I think that likely TPS is going to be fully and officially ended. I also think there will be a court battle, once again, as we have with so many other things and decisions that President Trump has made. But the amount of money that is being spent on fraud is immense. A large portion of that we can directly attribute to Somalians and Somali fraud. And we can now directly attribute it to the government of Somalia, because the Somalia's UN ambassador, who previously oversaw adult Medicaid, also served as the CEO at a company that was previously reportedly placed on a federal fraud exclusion list, and they were banned from receiving Medicaid frauds. This took place in Ohio. Now, this individual, you can see here, he is currently the sitting ambassador to the United Nations. At one point, he worked inside the Medicaid bureaucracy in the state of Ohio, and later was running a company that was allegedly a legitimate healthcare company. But because they were found to be engaging in fraudulent activity, they were placed on the federal fraud exclusion list. And Abukar Dahir Osman, who is nicknamed Baal, or Bale, I don't know which, he was no longer allowed to do business. So he is currently sitting as Somalia's permanent representative to the United Nations. He's a part of the Somalian government. He's been in that position since 2017. And it also means that he has a tremendous amount of power, not only in the Somalian government, but in the United Nations as well. He's on the UN Security Council. So on the Security Council, he oversees the Security Council meetings. He sets the agenda for the Security Council. He manages resolutions and presidential statements, and he speaks for the A3 bloc. This is the African nations plus Caribbean representation, and he will handle things like Afghanistan and Yemen because of the location of Somalia in the world. Now, before assuming global authority in New York, Osman spent years embedded inside the state welfare system in Ohio. And he relocated to the United States back in the 1980s and then built his career inside this taxpayer-funded apparatus. So from 1999 to 2012, he worked at the Franklin County Department of Job and Family Services. He was a case manager and a social program specialist. He was also a supervisor for the Medicaid office in Franklin County, Ohio from 2007 to 2012. He founded Beacon Educational Services. This is from his resume on the UN website. And he served as a consultant for that organization from 2007 to 2010. But when he worked at Progressive Healthcare Services Incorporated, this was a company that was linked to him that was a home healthcare company, much like what we've seen from other home healthcare companies that are owned by Somalians. He served as the managing director of Progressive Healthcare Services from 2014 to 2019, and he was also listed as the statutory agent in 2018. This, of course, is after he became Somalia's UN ambassador in 2017. There's a conflict of interest there, on top of the already obvious conflict of interest that this company was placed on the permanent fraud exclusion list. Upon reviewing Progressive Healthcare's services national provider information, his public profile is still listed on there. Abakar Osman, he was listed as the president and the CEO. Now, the Progressive Healthcare Services Incorporated appears on the November 2025 updated list of excluded individuals and entities, which is maintained by the Department of Health and Human Services Office of Inspector General. And that listing falls under exclusion code 1128A1. You can see that right here, along with a whole bunch of other progressive companies. We don't know anything about these other ones. We can probably look those up. But you've got counseling centers, chiropractic offices, pharmacies, ambulance companies, a whole host of different healthcare provider organizations. But exclusion code 1128A1 is a mandatory exclusion from participation in all federal healthcare programs such as Medicare and Medicaid. It can be applied to an individual or an entity, and you have to have been convicted of a criminal offense related to fraud, theft, or financial misconduct in coordination with billing or providing billing for healthcare items or services. So that means that his company that he started, which he was still at while working for the Somalian government in the United Nations, was banned from the receipt of federal health care payments. It's a sanction which is handed out by the Office of the Inspector General for the Department of Health and Human Services. And what's also shocking about this is that there is another healthcare company that operates out of that same suite. Its address is 2852 Boudinot Avenue, Suite 202. And the name of that healthcare company is Evergreen Home Care. Now, this is where another Somalian government employee comes in, this time Somalia's foreign minister. This is another Ohio healthcare company who also is still in receipt of U.S. taxpayer dollars, also is in control of the same LLC at that same address as a Somali money transfer firm that this time was accused of terror financing. Now, it's very possible that the other healthcare company is just a reboot still owned by that same individual who is banned by the federal government of engaging in Medicare billing. They, same way as they do with these healthcare companies, as they do with these childcare companies, they likely do with the healthcare companies. Once one of them gets caught to the point where they get banned, they just change the name and handle ownership over to somebody else. But this time, it's Somalia's Foreign Minister Abdisalam Abdi Ali. He is a U.S. citizen, and his Ohio-based healthcare company has also been paid millions of dollars in Medicare and Medicaid dollars from American taxpayers. They control an LLC, which is listed to have their business at this Somali money transfer firm. Now, this Somali money transfer firm was previously accused of sending money to terrorist organizations. Abdisalam Abdi Ali was only recently appointed as the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation in Somalia. He has held that position since May of 2025. He was born in Somalia, but his life has primarily been spent here in the United States. He established a company called Right Choice Healthcare Services, LLC, in Toledo about 10 years ago. And then 2 additional healthcare companies are still operating out of that same address that I mentioned earlier. One of these companies specializes in home healthcare. They provide services like nursing aides and therapy to vulnerable populations, elderly, disabled, that sort of thing. And they also, more importantly, receive massive funding from the federal government through Medicare and Medicaid. They get reimbursed for caring for low-income patients. Now, his business partner, Abdul J. Suri, who was listed as president at Right Choice Healthcare Services, LLC, can be seen here on their official corporate information. He is also listed as an administrative assistant at Dahabshil, one of the world's largest Somali money transfer companies. And Dahabshil is headquartered in Dubai, but they have a U.S. corporate office, which is located in Ohio. And for a long time, they have been a lifeline for Somali immigrants who send these remittances home. Remember, I mentioned the other day that $5.5 million per day gets sent to Somalia from the United States in the form of remittances. They would send it through a variety of different ways. If they're not taking it in a suitcase on a plane, then they would use one of these money transfer businesses. And this is where the firm has faced repeated accusations of facilitating terrorism financing. Here he is right here, Abdisalam Ali. You can see him on the Somali official government website. But you've got a series of lawsuits dating back 10 years which accuse Dahabshil providing material support to Al-Shabaab, which is the same terror outfit operating in Somalia right now that Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has been tasked with investigating, because we've shown that money from Minnesota that is coming from these welfare programs has ended up back in the hands of Al-Shabaab. They are an Al-Qaeda affiliate, and they are designated in the United States as a foreign terrorist organization. The U.S. State Department believes that, and of course, the entire administration believes that they are terrorists. One high-profile case that demonstrated the transfer of this money involved an individual by the name of Harbi Hussein. Harbi Hussein is the son of a Somali activist, Sado Ali Warsame, who was assassinated by Al-Shabaab in 2014. And the claim is that Dahabshil aided the terrorists responsible for his father's death. Now, there was a lawsuit that was brought, but it was ultimately dismissed by the U.S. Appeals Court in 2017 because there was a lack of evidence. However, not only the United States has been identifying this company as doing business with terrorists, but Dutch and Kenyan authorities have also investigated this company, and they have also temporarily suspended services for this company in 2015 during the midst of these terror probes. And Dahabshil has consistently denied any wrongdoing, and they've won exonerations in a number of different jurisdictions. But that could just be due to the connections that they have and the amount of money that they are sending back and forth and that they can pay off to people, allegedly, in my opinion. Now, the report was first amplified through accounts like Libs of TikTok and the real state of America. And it also turns out that Ali also controls another LLC, Salam Group LLC, which is registered at the same address as these other companies, this time 2273 Morse Road in Columbus, Ohio. All of these organizations are based in this office. I'm sure that they don't have real physical locations. It's just where they can use the address. But this is the corporate office of Dahab Shil, the company that is sending money to terrorists. So now we have even more direct connections, not only to this money from Ohio and the United States heading directly back to Somalia, but the Somalian government themselves being involved in the fraudulent transfer of American taxpayer dollars to facilitate the payments going directly to terrorists. My question, ultimately, is when does this become an act of war? I mean, I was just thinking about Black Hawk Down. I kind of want to watch Black Hawk Down again because, we went to Somalia, they killed our boys, and then we opened the doors and we let them in. And now they're engaging in this type of behavior, and they've been doing it for the last 30 years. This is as direct a connection as I think we're probably going to find. There are undoubtedly many different individuals who are running many different companies exactly as we just showed you. And there can only be one result that comes from this. These people have to pay the money back. If they're here in the United States, they've got to be held accountable. They've got to be sent to prison. They've got to be deported. We've got to get rid of every single one of these people. If there is any connection, if there is the stench of criminal activity on them, they need to be sent back. Now, here is that
businesses in
reporter
here
that I had.
Healthcare businesses. Of the total businesses, there's 37.
I can't stop this, so I need to refresh it. This is that Minnesota reporter for News Nation who had gone to a number of home healthcare companies the other day. Here he is going to several dilapidated warehouses where you've got tens upon scores of home healthcare companies that are all operating out of the same address. But here in this particular building, you've got something like 60 that are operating all in the same place.
This building right behind me has 22 different home and community-based healthcare companies registered in the building. It's only 4 floors. I walked in there yesterday trying to find a number of them. Many of them are they appear to be just window fronts, door fronts.
No, Bobber, it's definitely not Minnesota. It's happening in every single state. But right now, for the purpose of this segment, we are talking about the Somali population. The last story, those gentlemen were previously based in Ohio. Somalia, the Somali population is largest in Minnesota, second largest is in Ohio, but they are in a number of states all across the nation. I looked down here in Florida. There's only a couple of hundred Somalians that live down here, and the vast majority of them are in Palm Beach County.
With nobody behind. So same story, different look.
This one is even worse. And this looks like the kind of place you would go to, keep your extra stock. Like, this place has probably got high-lows driving around with, pallets of paint and stuff like that. It's not anywhere that you would want a home healthcare company.
We're here in St. Paul at this building, which looks like a warehouse or a dilapidated old building. Inside this building, there are 60 registered home and community healthcare organizations inside this one building. We're here in Northeast Minneapolis, and we're at a building that I believe is on the radar of authorities. They have questions about it. A lot of the businesses in here.
So, again, what he just said there, this building right here is already on the radar of federal investigators. And I believe that every single instance of these fraudulent businesses that are being found, the government is actively investigating.
Here are home healthcare businesses. Of the total businesses, there's 37. 17 of them are home healthcare businesses.
Not a one of them had anybody working. All of them were simply front offices with doors locked and a sign on the door, oftentimes just printed off a laser jet.
There's just layer upon layer upon layer of fraud throughout this city, Jessica. As for whether Governor Walz is going to testify before the Oversight Committee, that remains to be seen. We asked him.
He will, because he's being subpoenaed. So I think he's going to fight it, but he's going to have to testify. That should be very interesting. I may want to actually just stream that live if they do it live.
Office if he was going to testify, and we have yet to hear back.
So Tim Walz is going to do everything he can to not testify, because once he does, it's going to be very, very bad. All right, now let's take a look at another very interesting case that broke out over the last 24 hours. There has been a lot of criticism from the Somali community, like that guy who was laughing and talking about how his EBT card got reloaded. This young woman, who's actually a pre-med student in, I don't know where she lives. I'm assuming it's, in Minnesota, but I don't know for certain. She's on TikTok, and during a TikTok live the other day, she quite literally said that Elon Musk was not going to be alive much longer. It seemed to indicate that she was threatening his life. Maybe the Somali community was threatening his life. So she was switching back and forth between Somalian and English. But when she breaks out of Somalian and goes into English, she shows a picture of Elon Musk and she says, "I wouldn't worry too much about him. He about to die." Take a look.
Musk. Elon Musk was
When people say like this is fake, I'm like, actually, well, let's look at
كان محو هايستا العق بس هايستا بدو فول حمية اسكو فول حمية كان وادق ودم الربع. I wouldn't worry too much about this one. That الباب يسجو. I wouldn't worry too much about him. He about to die.
So I feel like that's a pretty obvious threat to Elon Musk. Here she is also mocking Americans, saying that we're dirty because we don't wash our asses. And also bragging about stealing our money.
Is the Somali community under so much heat right now? Like, did I miss something? Hello? Gaalada oo haadka dhaqi wayse anaga ay manacaynaayaan. Anaga? Why problem?
She's talking about fraud. Like, why is it a problem? Fraud is just what we do, basically. The problem is you got caught.
This is all low-key, red Minnesota. Why is that not always say? Why would you get caught? You scammed the government, cool. Why? Why? Oh my God, the F, I don't get that period. Now the galas are turning on us and they're questioning the legitimacy of all Somali businesses. Now this is horrible PR for us, but first of all, it's cool when they do it. It's a problem when we do it.
It ain't cool when anybody does it.
Fuck. Red Minnesota, I'm really disappointed and I'm really sad and I'm really disgusted in what you guys did. Like that durutan, I didn't meet you shaky. I didn't know what I'm eat jarin. I didn't tell joke high spelling mistakes more high.
So I have no idea what she said there primarily, but definitely we know in that other video she threatened Elon Musk's life. Now, Elon very quickly saw that video and he retweeted her and he said, "Then it is war," right here. Obviously, Elon Musk has got the power to go after this girl and find her. It didn't take long. It turns out her name is Fardosa Muhammad. Could have guessed that one. So they found publicly available profiles of Muhammad in a series of things. She went to Kansas City. That's where she graduated from. And there were also additional things from the Frontier STEM High School program in Kansas City. The older stuff from high school said that she planned to pursue pre-med at the University of Missouri, Kansas City. In her profile, she said that she wanted to work in medicine to address racial inequities experienced by refugee mothers in the healthcare system. Of course, this is not somebody that should be anywhere near the healthcare field, especially making statements like that about Elon Musk. Those same materials describe her as academically high achieving and civically involved, participating in healthcare exposure programs, organizing a cultural fashion show to highlight diversity within her high school, volunteering as a translator for schools and families, working nearly 20 hours a week and helping care for nieces and nephews. Now, regardless of her resume, what she said about Elon is not okay. And based upon that, there is a renewed sense of scrutiny on her. Based Mike Lee also retweeted her video and said, "Deport her immediately. She shouldn't be here." Well, now, of course, she is making a video to distance herself from those statements she made, and she is positioning herself as the victim. Let's take a look. Of course, in this instance, she speaks in English because she wants everybody to hear what a victim she is. And she's also not quite as boisterous. She's a little quieter, a little more demure, a little more low-key.
If you told me a week ago that my name and Elon Musk's name are being voiced in the
Hang on, I need to turn this up because she's trying to sound like she's all sad, my life's in danger, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe Elon Musk and my name are in the same sentence. I never, ever would have imagined something like this would happen to me. Me. And she's wearing all black. So sad.
same breath, I wouldn't believe you. But here I am today. Hello, if you know who I am, then you know why this video has to be made. On December 31st, 2025, my life took a tragic turn. I was badly misinterpreted and misheard on a now viral clip. In this clip, my words and what they are being translated to has been taken greatly out of context. I want to make myself clear. I never intended or even aimed to threaten the life of Elon Musk. I'm not a person that carries around hate. The media and Elon have taken my words completely out of context, and it's been deeply hurtful to watch how that's turned into me being dehumanized and painted as a villain. For context, the clip going viral was taken from a longer live segment and edited in a way that removes the heart of what I was trying to say.
I also think it's very clear she probably did not write this. She's not reading the sentence structure properly. She's kind of just going through the script, very similar to what we saw those other Somalis doing.
Stream, some of my supporters asked me about my thoughts on Elon Musk in relation to his health after viral photos of him in swim shorts surfaced.
Those pictures of him in swim shorts are like 10 years old.
Intention was to never mock, insult, or be cruel in any way. What I was trying to express came from my personal experience. As a person gets older, health becomes more important, and it is something we should all be taking seriously and treat with care. My message was meant to encourage kindness towards our bodies and towards one another if we want to live a long, luxurious life.
Oh my God. I mean, I knew that this was going to happen, but like, every time I see people trying to pull back on shit like this, it's just so ridiculous.
Instead, that message was twisted, stripped of its context, and turned into something it was never meant to be. A few people went ahead and asked Elon's AI Grok what it thought about my language in the video. I would display the response here.
The video features a woman speaking primarily in Somali mixed with English, based on analyses from multiple sources. Here's a translation summary. She's insulting Elon Musk, calling him an ugly old man whose only appeal is money, saying he's out of her league and about to die soon due to his age. The direct English line is, I wouldn't worry too much about him, he's about to die. It's interpreted as dismissive rather than a literal threat.
As you can see, Roth agrees. This is more interpreted as dismissive rather than a literal threat. Elon Musk tweeted the same viral video twice. I assume the first time didn't get the reaction he wanted, both hours apart. One where he said, and I quote, wonderful people, and the most recent time that is currently still pinned at the top of his profile stating, and I quote, then it is war. While Somali hate is at an all-time high right now, Elon is a very powerful man and has endless amount of supporters. This will forever be a losing match for me. Elon Musk is coming at me with full force, but I don't remember when I signed up to be an scapegoat, but okay.
A scapegoat? It's not a term.
This tweet has caused me great discomfort. My intentions were to never make Elon Musk uncomfortable or feel unsafe in any way. I don't know how a billionaire can be scared of a little girl who doesn't have half the power, but go off, King. My words have been villainized and my voice has been stolen. Me and Elon Musk's lives are worlds apart. I do not have nearly the same amount of resources he is fortunate enough to have. This whole situation has put me in truly great danger. Private information about me is being displayed all over the internet, and I have received endless amount of threats over this miscommunication, and I truly am in fear for my future. But what a beautiful way to start off the year.
Yeah, I hope that your future involves getting shipped right back to Somalia. Maybe they can drop you in Somali land, and your tribal betters can take care of the problem for us. All right. Lee Walden says, I'm a disabled vet and Social Security and but since I'm at a threshold, my earnings are too much. I qualify for $23. Don't accept pretty screwed up little shit punks, heads punking us, FAFO. Yeah, sorry to hear about that, buddy. Now, here is another Somali business that Libs of TikTok discovered. This address in Minnesota that she found has nearly a dozen healthcare companies. All of them are owned by Somalians. All of the phone numbers are disconnected. The websites are all very suspicious. Fake numbers, fake emails, tons of spelling errors. They aren't even trying. Take a look at this.
Hi everyone, Chai here from Libs of TikTok. So I went down the Minnesota fake daycare healthcare rabbit hole, and I came across this address in Burnsville, and it's basically this building, totally unmarked. We found 9 healthcare companies running out of here. There's for sure more. We only found 9. They all have Somali names. One of them, Grace Care Center, which is run by Saeed Ahmad. We looked into their website. They claim to have a facility here for kids with autism. This is their site. Tons and tons of red flags. We
care your child.
Care your chill. So if you want your chill to Lear, you can send them to the Grace Care Center to Lear in this Somali Learing Center.
Lee, we just got to get you a daycare center license, buddy, and then you won't have to worry about anything. Like, what bullshit? It pisses me off so bad that we've got people here in the United States who are, like, doing it right, suffering, and then you've got all of these people coming here just to plunder and steal and rob. And this is why these people have got to be dealt with. This is why they need to be prosecuted. We need to claw back all of that money, take every worldly possession they have, and dump them back on the shores of Somalia.
Frequently questioned.
Frequently questioned.
These numbers don't work. This one just rings endlessly. This one was disconnected. We called a bunch that we found at this location, and none of them went through. Most of these do not have websites. They don't have reviews, nothing. This one at least has a website.
Yeah, and everything, these are all just stock images. In another location on their website, they didn't even bother to write anything. You can see here, this webpage doesn't work. And on another page, they didn't bother to write anything. It's all just lorem ipsum. The only person that they have listed here is Omar, the founder, but they have like a white woman with a little white child. Clearly not Omar. And here's another one that is listed at 123A Miranda City, Lickaloy, Precano Dope. That's all lorem ipsum. Email address is info@example.com and example@info.com. Phone numbers 0989-7876-98659 and 090-8765-86543. Phone numbers that don't exist. Now, once Libs of TikTok published this, Grace Care Center took their entire website offline. Probably because they didn't like the attention, because they're not a real company. They were worried that people were paying attention, and now they were being exposed. So you've got FBI Response here. That's their Rapid Response X account. So you can tag them if you see fraud, and hopefully they have people that are checking that out. New Jersey is actually being investigated currently. We just haven't seen people posting out of New Jersey yet, which is, again, why I suggested, Dina, if you're in New Jersey, go look at these businesses. Get some videos, get some pictures, share them here. We will clip some stuff up, and we will tag the FBI on it. Now, do you guys remember Josh Gerstein from the other day? Josh Gerstein who suggested that Somali business owners might have the legal right to shoot journalists who would come and knock on their businesses. Well, the ICE officials who watch the program, or maybe just pay attention to what libtards say on X, they have directly accused Josh Gerstein of inciting violence against federal agents amid these investigations. You can see here, at some point, the amateur effort to knock on doors of home daycares intersects with robust stand your ground laws. Now, of course, Minnesota doesn't have stand your ground laws. So if any Somalians shot a journalist that came to their door, that would be manslaughter, that would be murder, at very least, that would be great bodily harm. So Minnesota's self-defense laws permit force inside the home, but it requires a retreat in public spaces before you resort to any violence. So if someone came knocking at your door, unless they forced their way inside your home, you would not be able to shoot them. Now, ICE responded to Josh on X and said, you would think a senior legal affairs reporter for Politico would know better than to tweet something inciting violence against federal agents. Now, I don't know if this means that they're just, being cheeky and suggesting this to Josh, or if Josh is going to be facing charges, but the post that ICE put out there got over 16,000 likes by the following afternoon. Gerstein fired back later that day and defended his statement. He wrote, "To observe that something is likely to happen or there's a serious risk of it happening is not to advocate for it happening." Of course, as of today, no formal charges have been filed against Gerstein, and Politico has not issued a public statement on the matter. I don't think that they will, but I would love it if Josh Gerstein was charged in this instance. Let me say thank you to Judy the Lady Pug for the cookie, and Darla, who says NYC is effed up. Police officers are quitting, and he's going to fill their positions with Islamic terrorists. People have no idea what they voted for. They can crap on the streets with the ones they love. No toilet paper provided. I saw that there was a whole bunch of NYC cops who quit and left their uniforms on the side of the road. So yeah, I know things are bad in New York, and it's only going to get worse. They've also recently passed something which essentially destroys private property rights. If you are a building owner, a multi-unit building owner in New York, if you want to sell that building, you first have to sell it. You have to offer it to the city or to a New York sanctioned 501c3. And it can extend the process out by like 6 months. And even if they decide they don't want it and you find a different owner for the building, before you can sell it to them, you have to offer it again to the city or to the nonprofit. And they have like another 3 months to decide whether or not they want it. So this is going to screw people big time in New York. So we'll see how things work out. All right, now Mahek Cook, who we have featured on the show before, after we started looking at Minnesota, she came out and said, well, a lot of the same stuff is happening here in Ohio. So she went to a number of daycare centers in Ohio, and at one of these, she was actually physically assaulted.
What? You gotta go. You gotta go. Okay, I'm just asking. You can't push. Oh. Okay. They just literally pushed me out. Like, that's insane. Their hours are Monday through Friday.
Say they should be open.
And they literally asked if I'm recording and then pushed me. That's insane. There's clearly children in there.
Oh, hold on. There was a couple of these that I missed. Let me say... Okay, no thanks, Joe. Sean Joe, thank you for the cookie. Darla says Tampon Tim ran for vice president to cover up the massive fraud. Newscomb running for president is the same thing. It's deeper than we think. I think you're absolutely correct. They know that the only way that they can keep themselves out of prison if they continue through the ranks to higher office. Sean Joe, thank you for 2 cookies. Filter Dog dropped a cookie and said, I wonder what Alexander Solitskin would have to say about the warmth of collectivism. I couldn't believe he said that. The warmth of collectivism. Things are about to get real hairy in New York. Sean Joe, thank you for 2 cookies. Zeta Anand, thank you for a fleet. Sorry, it's been a long time. Sometimes got it, a lot of times don't. I really appreciate you. Thank you for that, Fleet. Thank you. No thanks, Joe. Says, hey, Zach, I'm hearing stories of many illegals coming here for asylum from their government and once collecting welfare frequently go back on vacations. Have you seen these stories? I mean, if they get asylum and they come here and they have the freedom to go back and forth, that would not surprise me. I don't have any documented instances of this, but I mean, I could see that happening very easily. Oh, and Zeta Nun says, gotta save a fleet for Space Shot and Tron. Love you, brother. Love you too, homie. Thank you very much for that phone.
I just don't think you should put your hands on somebody and push them out.
No.
Insane.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering why you're pushing me. No, the lady literally put her hands on me and pushed me. I just had a couple questions.
So there's also a trucking company that is operating out of this same daycare location. Again, trucking, home health care. You've got daycare centers. So she comments on it a little bit more here. She says she's also being called a grifter by people on X, which is hilarious.
Hey, Ohio. Donald K. Bryan allegedly goes by the Ohio Rooster, called me a grifter, and then said I would find myself on the wrong side of stand your ground. This is not just disgusting, it's reckless.
So again, stand your ground. That's not how it works in Ohio, and she's got the goods.
Let me be very clear. I am walking into licensed daycares in the state of Ohio during business hours, asking basic questions about enrollment and cost. This is lawful and normal conduct. These daycares receive state and federal dollars. Translation, my money and yours. Asking how public funds are being used, that's not called harassment in America. It's actually called accountability. Let's really talk about the hypocrisy that we're seeing today. Calling someone a grifter is one thing, bring it. But implying that I deserve violence for asking questions is entirely something different. This is parasitic rhetoric, language meant to dehumanize, intimidate, and justify harm against me and so many others that are raising red flags. And it's used by people who clearly do not understand the law that they are invoking. So let me explain it to you. Stand your ground in Ohio. There is no stand your ground defense for silencing speech, intimidating journalists, attorneys, or anybody pushing people who make you uncomfortable. So no, I cannot get shot for asking how taxpayer-funded programs operate in this state or any others. And anyone implying otherwise is either dangerously misinformed or they're intentionally trying to intimidate and incite violence. Accountability is not harassment. Transparency is not violence. And using dehumanizing language to justify threats says far more about the speaker than the person asking questions. If the facts scare you, that's not a legal defense. That is a red flag. And the Ohio law is very clear on that.
Yeah. So again, these people are not only dangerously misinformed, but they are also attempting to put that out into the ether so that it happens. If it does happen, obviously things are going to get much, much worse. Now, the other day I mentioned the Ohio State representative who had sent the letter to the state of Ohio requesting that changes be made to the Ohio State daycare system. This is that representative, Representative Williams. He's a Republican, and he and a host of other state reps that are also Republicans are demanding that the state of Ohio make these changes because the exact same thing that was found in Minnesota is being found in Ohio among the Somali population. So these changes are likely going to be made. And of course, the exact same type of investigations that are being done by the federal government in Minnesota are also being done in Ohio. There are over 5,000 childcare providers in the state of Ohio. Don't know how many of them are owned by Somalians, probably a fair number of them. But what's hilarious is that Governor Mike DeWine was asked about this daycare fraud. And you can tell this guy is not running for office again because his office's official answer was that fraud is just the cost of doing business. Take a look at this. Governor Mike DeWine and his office was asked about the taxpayer-funded daycare centers in Columbus potentially engaging in fraud. And the governor's office said that attempts to use daycare centers for fraud in Ohio have been known for decades by the state, and that those who did not think it was an issue are naive. The spokesperson for Mike DeWine, Dan Tierney, denied any recent surge in fraud, but acknowledged the governor's office is aware of public interest in the matter. If people are out there who could not contemplate that people are trying to defraud the public through daycare centers, I understand it's new to them, but it's been known to the state for decades. If it's been known to the state for decades, DeWine, then why hasn't the state done anything about it? So therefore, we have robust anti-fraud measures to try and stop this. This is something that is unfortunately the cost of doing business. You're obviously not doing a good enough job if you know that it's happening to the degree that it is, and the amount of fraud that is being allowed to take place is simply not being dealt with. So people on X were very, very upset about this because there are 45 to 70,000 Somali residents there. There are obviously a lot of these daycare centers that seem to have the exact same profile as those in Minnesota, and there is a direct investigation into each and every one of them that is needed on a regular basis. Apparently, they only have to be visited once per year. These should have regular monthly visits. They should be unscheduled. There should be no time at any point that the daycare centers can deny these people to come in. If there has been fraud that has been committed, then all of that money must be paid back. In the fiscal year of 2025, Ohio spent over $800 million on child care assistance. So just like in Minnesota, there is ample opportunity for massive fraud to be taking place. Another state that has been focused on heavily recently is the state of Washington. Lots of Somalis there as well. This particular instance is a one called Great Home Childcare. Now, the law in Washington states that there must be audits on these businesses. And this particular childcare center has not been visited, hadn't had any inspections, haven't had any audits for at least the last 3 years. And during that time, they have received over $1 million since the beginning of 2023. And again, this is all from publicly available information that you can find online. They have a Somali language spoken there, so they are owned by Somalis. Shrey Jawahar at Great Home Childcare. This person's information is available right here. They're open from 12 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. So they're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I'm surprised that they're not getting more money as it is. But there is no audit or inspection data available. So again, much like Ohio, much like Minnesota, there's no due diligence. There's no oversight that is being done. Here again in Washington, Voices of Tomorrow is the largest Somali-focused nonprofit in Seattle. And much like these other child care centers and nonprofits, many of them are donating money to Somali politicians. They have received many millions of dollars in state and federal funding. And again, they have not been audited as required by law. They are a 501c3. There is due diligence that is legally obligated to be done when you are handling revenue of nearly $9 million. It becomes even more important. So they're bringing in all of this state and federal funding. They are filing their taxes, but nobody is checking them to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Now, the key officers of this nonprofit, both of whom appear to be Somalians, they are receiving $375,000 per year. And there's only two of them who show as actually working there, the chief financial officer and the chief executive officer. And with that much money coming in, Voices of Tomorrow is a premier contemporary bilingual and bicultural preschool program situated in the Pacific Northeast. We strive to cultivate the identity of the African child. In addition to free early learning services, we have partnered with the City of Seattle, DCYF, and King County to provide subsidized methods of payment for qualifying families to receive free child care program services for their children. And nobody has ever bothered to look inside their books. This is absolutely insane. And they're not alone. This is, again, just seems to be the way things are done in the state of Washington, as they are done in the state of Ohio, as they are done in the state of Minnesota. Now, when you take a look at Washington and their campaign donations, 80% of all publicly disclosed Washington campaign donations in the year of 2025 by people with childcare listed as their occupation, they all went to the Somali Port of Seattle Commissioner Hamdi Mohammed. So literally 80% of the people who work at daycares or own daycares are all donating to the exact same person, Hamdi Mohammed, a Somali candidate in the city of Seattle. I'm surprised they're not donating other places, but they might be donating. And for some reason, they just really wanted to get that guy elected. Now, you'll remember the other day I told you about the state of Washington looking to make changes that would make it more difficult for citizen journalists in Washington to go out and investigate these things. Well, they literally just passed a state law that went into effect. Was that yesterday? Yeah, went into effect yesterday. It makes it a crime, a hate crime specifically, so long as the case can be made that even a part of the crime was motivated by bias or hate. So if you are frustrated by government fraud in your tweets, you can then include the names of Somalis in there, and then that can be multiplied into a hate crime. So you're complaining about fraud committed by Somalians in the state of Washington. You point out that it's Somalians that are doing it, they can then get you for a hate crime. Also note, the victims of such crimes can now get time off of work because a hate crime is considered in the same light as having a physical stalker or having been assaulted by a person in real life. So this explicitly includes assaults, even without physical injury, property damage, and threats that create a reasonable fear. I guarantee people are going to be using this and expanding it. This covers acts based on a perpetrator's perception of a victim's race, religion, sexual orientation, gender identity, etc. And that includes crimes committed via the internet or online communication. And Katie Wilson is the mayor of Seattle. She's the one who posted the other day that she stands with Somali daycare providers. The attorney general for the state of Washington said that he was going to be going after citizen journalists. Of course, Harmeet Dillon said, govern yourself accordingly. I believe she will be going after these people if they go after them. Also, jumping back over to the state of Maine, Representative Katrina Smith, who is a Republican, made a public address yesterday on the allegations of Medicaid fraud and specifically the actions that they're planning on taking.
Good afternoon. I'm Representative Katrina Smith. I'm the Assistant and the representative for District 62. I'm here to tell you today that my constituents and the constituents of my caucus members have had enough. The tax-paying citizens of Maine have had enough of fraud, waste, and lies. The people of Maine understand that we have a fiscal responsibility to keep our roads fit for travel, to care for those who need our help. And we don't mind that that money comes out of our paychecks for those endeavors. What we do mind coming out of our paychecks is money being sent to people in non-governmental organizations that are defrauding us. They're defrauding us because they are not providing the services that they claim to provide. They are defrauding us because they are personally gaining wealth from our tax dollars without doing the work they claim to do. We know that Gateway Community Services was found to have over $800,000 in fraudulent billing. We know that the money from the Lewiston tragedy didn't go to families of survivors. And now, just like Minnesota and Ohio, whose fraud is numbering in the billions of dollars at this time, this $800,000 can only be the tip of the iceberg of what's really happening here in Maine.
People are pissed. People are pissed, and they are not going to take it anymore. One final note, this is some corruption coming out of Andy Beshear, Governor Andy Beshear's state, Kentucky. It appears that there is a massive driver's license fraud that was just uncovered. Illegal aliens and non-citizens could pay $200 cash under the table. They would be allowed to skip tests, and they would also be allowed to bypass Homeland Security checks to get a driver's license in the state of Kentucky illegally. Now, after this was discovered, thousands of driver's licenses have been revoked because a whistleblower exposed the scam, and the employees have been fired, but Andy Beshear was attempting to cover this up. Yesterday, a court found that Beshear's administration violated the state's open record laws and forced him to release over 2,300 records related to the scam. And this is now obviously going to put people in a very difficult position because hopefully they will be held criminally liable. And the people who were given these driver's licenses, hopefully they will be identified and discovered and then kicked out of the state. Final thank you to Sean Joe for the cookie over here. I appreciate it. Also, Jep863 says local constitutional sheriffs should be called and brought to these businesses if domestic violence was caught on camera. They should be arrested along with everyone working there and deported. The only thing is that sometimes those constitutional sheriffs are not so constitutional, and they may be compromised as well, especially in a place like Minnesota. I don't know any of the sheriffs in Minnesota, but not all of them are going to be at the same level that you might expect. My sheriff here, Rick Staley, he's top-notch. Love that guy. Sue Spence says, Zach, have you considered that all of the peace deals President Trump has put into place serves an additional purposes, no more refugees? Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, if there's no more war, there's no more refugees, there's no more need to push people out. 100%. No reason for the U.S. to accept them. Yes, you are absolutely correct. I believe that I had mentioned that on one show in the past, but I haven't spent a tremendous amount of time on it. But yes, that is absolutely a part of it. If people are not fighting and there are no more need for people to leave their countries, they can just stay there and they can take care of themselves. You are correct. Let's see. And okay, that would be it. Before we go, I've just got one final message from our friends over here on Rumble, and then I'm going to go ahead and get started with dinner. We're making some steaks tonight. Quick message from our friends over here at Rumble and Augusta Gold. Did you guys know that the biggest threat to your retirement is not something that's often talked about? Our increased longevity in America means our default retirement accounts like IRAs, 401ks, and TSPs simply may not be enough. If you have over $100,000 in your retirement account, you can get instant access to a free 2-minute report from Augusta Precious Metals that reveals the one step you can take to secure your financial future. Text SAFE to 35052 today. You can also use that QR code right there and get some more information. All right, you guys, don't forget about the final sponsors of the show. Everything is listed in the description below. My friends at onenessdrops.com/redpill78. That BOGO sale is over, so you will get 15% off when you use the code redpill78. Also, Zeta Anon says, RP, you're an oak. Thank you, sir. You too are a sturdy tree. The same, I'll call you a redwood. How's that? All right, I'm passing out these gold pills, and we're going to be on our way. Join me Monday, right back here, 5 p.m., for another episode of Red Pill News Live. I'm going to send you guys over to Season Pixels. Say hello to Pixels for me, and I will see you guys on the flip side. Peace. Oh, yeah, don't forget to hit that like button. If you haven't hit the like button, please hit that like button.